In a time of silence and sorrow, a woman long barren received a divine visitor. "You will conceive and give birth to a son," the angel said, "but he must never drink wine, never touch the dead, and his hair must never be cut. For this child, this Samson, was to be set apart from birth, chosen to begin the deliverance of Israel." And so, Samson was born, destined, anointed, feared. He grew in strength, and the Spirit of the Lord began to stir in him. From an early age, he was not like the others. His arms carried the weight of giants, but his greatest weakness would never be his enemies. It would be his heart. Samson went down to Timnath, a city of the Philistines. There, he saw a woman, beautiful, strong, different. She was a Philistine. And he said to his father and mother, "I have seen a woman in Timnath. Now get her for me to be my wife." His parents were stunned. "Is there not a woman among our people?" they asked. But Samson insisted, "Get her for me, for she pleases me well." What they didn't know was that this desire was from the Lord, a plan hidden in plain sight. For God was seeking an opportunity against the Philistines. On the road to Timnah, a lion came roaring from the vineyard shadows. But the Spirit of the Lord rushed upon Samson, and with his bare hands, he tore the beast apart. Days later, he found honey in the carcass, and he scooped the honey with his hands and ate as he walked. He even gave some to his parents, but told them nothing of the lion. At the feast, the Philistines brought 30 companions to be with Samson, and Samson said to them, "Let me pose a riddle to you. If you can solve it in 7 days, I'll give you 30 linen garments. But if you can't, you must give the same to me." They agreed. And Samson said, "Out of the eater came forth meat, and out of the strong came forth sweetness." On the 7th day, the Philistine men turned to Samson's wife. "Entice him. Get the answer, or we'll burn you and your family." Terrified, she wept before Samson. "You don't love me. You gave them a riddle, but not me." She pleaded day after day. And on the final day, he told her, and she told them. Before the sun set, they said to him, "What is sweeter than honey? What is stronger than a lion?" Samson's eyes darkened, and he said, "If you had not plowed with my heifer, you'd have never solved the riddle." The Spirit of the Lord came upon him once more. He went down to Ashkelon, struck down 30 men, took their garments, and gave them to those who answered the riddle. His anger burned. He left the feast and returned to his father's house. But unknown to him, his wife had been given to another, to the very man who had stood beside him as his friend. Sometime later, during the wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and said, "I will go to my wife's room." But her father would not let him enter. The man said, "I was sure you hated her, so I gave her to your companion. But look, her younger sister, isn't she more beautiful? Take her instead." And Samson said, "This time, I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." So Samson caught 300 foxes. He tied them in pairs, tail to tail, and fastened a burning torch to each pair. Then he lit the torches and let them loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. The fire consumed the shocks and the standing grain, as well as the vineyards and olive groves. The Philistines shouted, "Who did this?" They were told, "Samson, the son-in-law of the Timnite, because his wife was given to his companion." So the Philistines went and burned her and her father to death. Samson said, "Since you acted like this, I swear, I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock of Etam. The Philistines went up and camped in Judah. They spread out near Lehi. The people of Judah asked, "Why have you come to fight us?" They replied, "We've come to take Samson prisoner, to do to him as he did to us." 3,000 men of Judah went to the cave in the rock of Etam. They said to Samson, "Don't you realize the Philistines rule over us?" "What have you done?" Samson replied, "I only did to them what they did to me." They said, "We've come to tie you up and hand you over." Samson said, "Swear you won't kill me yourselves." They agreed, "We will only tie you up and hand you over." So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As Samson approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him, shouting. But the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and struck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, "With a donkey's jawbone I made donkeys of them. With a donkey's jawbone I have killed 1,000 men." And Samson went to Gaza. There he saw a harlot and went into her. But word spread quickly. "Samson is here," the Philistines whispered. They laid in wait all night at the city gate, ready to pounce at dawn. But at midnight, Samson rose. He tore loose the gates of the city, iron bars and all, hoisted them onto his shoulders, and carried them to the top of the hill facing Hebron. Power, raw, unmatched. Then he fell in love. A woman of the valley of Sorek. Her name was Delilah. The Philistine lords came to her. "Entice him. Discover the secret of his great strength, and we will each give you 1,100 pieces of silver." And so began the seduction. "Tell me," she whispered, "what makes you so strong?" Samson played along. "If I'm bound with 7 fresh bowstrings, I'll be as weak as any man." They tied him, but when they shouted, "The Philistines are upon you," he snapped the cords like thread in fire. Delilah pouted. "You mocked me." Again and again she asked. Again and again he lied. New ropes, weaving his hair. But each time, he broke free. Finally, he told her everything. "No razor has touched my head. I am a Nazirite. If my hair is cut, my strength will leave me." Delilah knew the truth had come. She lulled him to sleep in her lap and called for a man to shave off his 7 locks. Then she cried out, "The Philistines are upon you." Samson awoke, but the Lord had departed from him. They seized him, gouged out his eyes, bound him in bronze chains, and threw him into prison, grinding grain like an animal. But the hair on his head began to grow again. The Philistine lords gathered in the temple of Dagon to celebrate, to mock, to drink. "Bring out Samson," they shouted. "Let him entertain us." They placed him between the pillars, blind, broken, but not without resolve. He whispered to the servant, "Place my hands on the pillars, that I may lean on them." Then Samson lifted his face toward heaven. "O Lord God, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, just once more." He braced himself, one hand on each pillar, and cried, "Let me die with the Philistines." He pushed, and the pillars buckled. The temple crumbled, and the lords of the Philistines, 3,000 men and women, were crushed beneath the stones. So the dead that Samson killed in his death were more than those he killed in his life. And so, Samson, the mighty judge of Israel, who once tore lions apart with his bare hands, who shook the earth beneath pagan temples, was now still, his body broken, but his purpose fulfilled. His brothers came, his father's household gathered him, and they laid him to rest between Zorah and Eshtaol, in the tomb of Manoah, his father. He judged Israel for 20 years, and though he fell, his final act shook the might of the Philistines. A flawed man, a chosen man, and a reminder that even in weakness, God's strength can rise.